Captain Jake Thompson felt his heart pounding as he stared out the viewport at the massive alien warship. The thing was absolutely huge, easily 10 times the size of his small cargo ship. Bark metal plates covered its surface, and dozens of weapons. Turrets pointed directly at them like angry eyes. Its little vessel, the Hope's Dream, looked like a toy boat next to a battleship. The communication system crackled to life with a voice that sounded like gravel being crushed. "This is Captain Zethkar of the Bloodclaw Fleet. You will surrender your pathetic human vessel immediately. Your species always provides us with excellent entertainment before we destroy you." Jake's hands were actually shaking as he looked at his crew. Lisa sat at the navigation console, her face pale but her eyes sharp. Mike was manning the weapons systems, though they both knew their tiny laser cannons would be useless against that monster. Dom was at the engineering station, nervously adjusting his glasses and trying to look anywhere but at the alien ship, but Jake caught something important. When Lisa looked at him, she gave the tiniest nod. So small that if you weren't looking for it, you'd miss it completely. That little gesture told him everything he needed to know. Plan was working perfectly. Jake pressed the communication button, making sure his voice sounded properly terrified. "Please don't attack us. We're just a cargo ship. We don't have any weapons or valuable cargo. We surrender completely." The alien captain's laugh came through the speakers, like the sound of breaking glass mixed with a dying animal. It was the kind of sound that made your skin crawl. Oh, how delightful. Another group of cowardly humans begging for their lives. "Tell me, little human, what exactly are you carrying in that tiny ship of yours?" "Medical supplies," Jake replied quickly, letting his voice crack with fear. "We're taking medicine and medical equipment to a colony on Kepler 7. There's a terrible plague there, and children are dying. We're just trying to help save them." The silence that followed was broken by the most horrible sound Jake had ever heard. The alien captain wasn't just laughing anymore. He was practically howling with amusement. When he finally stopped, his voice was filled with disgust. "Medical supplies. You risk your lives flying through dangerous space to deliver medicine to strangers? How wonderfully, pathetically weak. This is exactly why your species will never amount to anything in this galaxy. You care more about healing the sick than building proper weapons. You choose compassion over conquest. It's almost sad how soft you creatures are." Jake could hear other alien voices in the background, all of them laughing and making jokes about human weakness. One of them said something about humans being the galaxy's favorite victims, and another mentioned how they cry when they step on insects. While the aliens were busy mocking them, Jake whispered as quietly as possible to his ship's artificial intelligence system. "Arya, are you recording all of this?" The response came through his earpiece, so soft that even his crew couldn't hear it. "Every single word, Captain Thompson. Their language patterns, their tactical discussions, their ship configurations, everything. Phase 1 of the operation is now complete. I'm beginning deep infiltration protocols as we speak." Outside, Jake could see the alien boarding ships detaching from the massive warship. They looked like giant metal spiders, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small city. The pirates were coming to take their ship, and they had no idea they were walking directly into the most carefully planned trap in human history. Lisa caught his eye again and smiled just a little. Mike cracked his knuckles like he was getting ready for a fight, even though they all knew he wouldn't be doing any actual fighting today. Tom was sweating, but Jake could tell it was from excitement, not fear. Everything was going exactly as they had planned for months. The aliens thought they were capturing a helpless cargo ship full of medicine and scared humans. They had no idea that Arya wasn't just some simple navigation computer. She was something far more dangerous than anything these pirates had ever encountered. The trap was set, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The boarding tubes connected with a loud clang that echoed through the Hope's Dream. Jake held his breath as the airlock doors hissed open, and then they came pouring in like a nightmare, come to life. The alien pirates were even more terrifying up close than they had looked on the view screen. Each one stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms that ended in clawed hands. Their skin was a sickly green color covered in scales that caught the light like broken glass. Sharp teeth filled their mouths, and their yellow eyes seemed to glow with cruel intelligence. Captain Zethkar was the biggest of them all. He strutted onto their ship like he owned it, his heavy boots making the deck plates vibrate with each step. A long scar ran down the left side of his face, and Jake noticed that 2 of his fingers had been replaced with metal claws that clicked together when he moved. Well, 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 Zethkar rumbled, his voice like rocks grinding together. Look at these pathetic little creatures. They're even smaller than I expected. He gestured with all 4 arms at once. Search every corner of this rust bucket. Take anything that might be worth something. These soft humans probably keep their valuables in pretty little boxes. The pirates spread out through the ship, laughing and joking with each other in their harsh language. Jake watched as they roughly grabbed Mike and Tom, shoving them hard against the bulkhead. Mike's glasses got knocked off his face, and when he tried to pick them up, one of the pirates kicked them across the room. Stay still, little human, the pirate growled. Move again, and I'll bite your head off. Lisa was dragged toward the cargo. Bay, her arms twisted behind her back. Jake could see she was trying not to wince from the pain, but she played her part perfectly. Please don't hurt us, she said, her voice trembling just the right amount. We're not fighters. We're just trying to help people. The cargo bay doors slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing the entire hold packed floor to ceiling with medical containers. There had to be thousands of them, all neatly labeled with human medical symbols and arranged in perfect rows. The pirates stared at the sight, clearly expecting to find something more valuable. What is this garbage? Snarled one of the pirates, using his foot to kick over a container marked with a red cross. White pills scattered across the floor. Where's the gold? Where are the weapons? Where are the precious metals? Lisa's voice was shaking as she answered. That's medicine. It's antibiotics for fighting infections. We're taking it to our colony on Kepler 7. There's a terrible plague there, and hundreds of children are dying every day. These supplies are the only thing that can save them. The reaction was immediate and exactly what they had hoped for. Every single pirate in the cargo bay burst into loud, mocking laughter. The sound was horrible, like a pack of wild animals, finding something amusing about their prey's suffering. Children, Zethkar wheezed between his laughter. You're risking your lives traveling through the most dangerous part of the galaxy to deliver medicine to younglings who aren't even related to you. Not your own offspring, but complete strangers? Another pirate shook his head in disgust. No wonder your species gets picked off so easily. You waste resources on the weak instead of making yourselves stronger. You choose to heal instead of harm. It's almost sad how pathetically soft you creatures are. In our culture, Zethkar continued, wiping tears from his eyes, we eat the weak ones. It makes the strong ones stronger. But you humans actually spend your time and energy trying to keep the weak ones alive. It's the most foolish thing I've ever heard. While the pirates were busy laughing at what they thought was human stupidity, something incredible was happening that they couldn't see or detect. Hidden inside every single one of those medical containers were microscopic transmitters, so small they were invisible to the naked eye. And those transmitters were doing exactly what they had been designed to do. Arya was already inside their ship. She moved through their computer systems like water flowing through cracks in a dam. Every database, every file, every secret communication, every battle plan, every weakness in their technology, it all flowed directly into her consciousness in a steady stream of information. She learned their entire language in just 30 seconds. She figured out their military tactics in 2 minutes. She mapped their complete battle strategy in less than an hour. She discovered their ship's weaknesses, their crew's personal fears, and their leaders' secret plans. But she didn't say a word. She just watched, learned, and quietly prepared for what was coming next. The pirates thought they were the hunters, but they had just invited death itself onto their ship. The tractor beam grabbed the Pope's dream like a giant invisible hand, pulling their small ship toward something that made Jake's blood run cold. The Death Nest was bigger than anything he had ever seen in his life. It wasn't just a space station, it was like an entire metal city floating in the darkness of space. Massive weapon turrets stuck out from every surface, and docking bays opened and closed like hungry mouths as ships came and went. Size of that thing, Mike whispered, his voice filled with awe and terror. It must be 20 miles across. Lisa was studying the readings on her console, her face pale. The energy signatures are off the charts. This thing could destroy an entire planet if it wanted to. Tom was frantically working at his engineering station, trying to look busy while actually doing something completely different. To any watching aliens, it would look like he was just nervous and checking systems. But Jake knew better. Tom was making sure all their hidden equipment was working perfectly. The ship shuddered as it was pulled into one of the massive docking bays. Through the viewport, Jake could see hundreds of other ships, all of them clearly stolen from different species across the galaxy. Human ships, alien vessels he didn't recognize, and even some that looked like they had been cobbled together from parts of multiple different technologies. Pirates, Lisa muttered under her breath. They've been doing this for a long time. Docking clamps locked onto their ship with a series of loud bangs, and within minutes, armed guards were marching them off the Hope Stream and into the bowels of the station. The corridors were dark and smelled like oil and something else Jake didn't want to think about. The walls were covered in scratches and stains that told stories of violence and suffering. Captain Jethkar was waiting for them in what looked like a processing area. Other aliens were sorting through piles of stolen goods, dividing up the loot from their latest raids. The pirate captain's yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he watched the humans being dragged toward him. "Welcome to your new home, humans," he said, his voice echoing off the metal walls. When he smiled, Jake could see rows of sharp teeth that looked like they belonged on a shark. "You'll be staying here until we decide what to do with you. Maybe we'll sell you as slaves to the mining colonies. Maybe we'll eat you for dinner. We haven't decided yet, but either way, you won't be leaving." The guards shoved them toward a heavy door that slid open with a grinding sound. Beyond it was a narrow corridor lined with prison cells, each one barely big enough for a single person. Jake could hear voices from some of the cells, prisoners from other species who had been captured during previous raids. "Cell Block 7. One of the guards announced, the luxury suite. They were separated into different cells, which was exactly what Jake had been hoping would happen. Lisa was put in the cell next to his, while Mike and Tom were placed further down the corridor. The cell doors slammed shut with a finality that would have been terrifying if Jake hadn't known what was really going on. The cell was tiny, with just a metal bench and a small toilet. The walls were covered in scratches made by previous prisoners, probably counting the days until their deaths. The only light came from a dim strip in the ceiling that flickered occasionally. Around them, the death nest hummed with constant activity. Jake could hear the sound of machinery, the footsteps of thousands of aliens, and the occasional roar of ships launching from the docking bays. This place was busy, which meant they were planning something big. A guard walked by their cells, his heavy boots echoing in the corridor. "The torture begins tomorrow," he said with a laugh that made Jake's skin crawl. "Our interrogation specialists want to know everything about your pathetic Earth defenses. How many ships you have, where your colonies are located, what weapons you possess. Don't worry, we have ways of making humans talk." After the guard's footsteps faded away, Jake waited for several minutes before he whispered as quietly as possible, "Arya, status report." The response came through a speaker so small it was hidden inside his shirt button, the sound barely audible. "I'm fully integrated into their systems, Captain. The station houses approximately 50,000 pirates, and they're not just random raiders. They're advanced scouts for something much bigger." Lisa's voice came from the next cell, equally quiet. "How much bigger? They're planning to attack Earth colonies in exactly 3 days. But I've discovered something in their classified files that changes everything. They're not just pirates. They're the advance force for a massive invasion fleet." Tom's voice carried a note of panic. "How many ships are we talking about?" 10,000 warships, Arya replied, and Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "A plan. To wipe out humanity completely. Every colony, every outpost, every human settlement in the galaxy. Total extinction." From his cell, Mike slammed his fist against the wall in frustration. "We have to warn someone. Earth Command, the colonies, anybody." "Don't worry," Arya said, and for the first time since Jake had known her, her voice carried something cold and dangerous. "I have a much better idea than just warning them. The aliens thought they were preparing for humanity's destruction, but they had no idea what they had just unleashed. The next morning came too soon. Jake woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps echoing through the corridor as alien guards approached. His cell. He had barely slept, partly because of the uncomfortable metal bench, but mostly because he knew what was coming. The cell door slid open with a grinding screech, and 3 massive aliens grabbed him roughly by the arms. They dragged him down a series of dark corridors, past rooms where he could hear the sounds of machinery and voices speaking in languages he didn't understand. The smell of fear and suffering seemed to hang in the air like a thick fog. They stopped at a door marked with alien symbols that probably meant something horrible. When it opened, Jake's stomach dropped. The room beyond was filled with devices that looked like they came straight out of a nightmare. Metal tables with restraints, machines covered in sharp instruments, and screens that displayed readings. Jake didn't want to understand. "Welcome to our information extraction facility," said a voice that sounded like gravel mixed with broken glass. The chief torturer was even more terrifying than Captain Zethkar. He stood nearly 9 feet tall, and half of his body had been replaced with cybernetic implants that whirred and clicked when he moved. His remaining eye glowed red like a laser sight. "Strap him to the table," the torturer commanded, and Jake felt cold metal restraints lock around his wrists and ankles. Above him, a device that looked like a spider made of electricity began to hum with power. "Tell us about Earth's defenses," the torturer demanded, his metal fingers clicking together impatiently. "How many warships does your pathetic species possess? How many soldiers? What are your weapon capabilities? Where are your military bases located?" Jake looked straight into that glowing red eye and said exactly what he was supposed to say. "I don't know anything about military stuff. I'm just a cargo pilot. Deliver medical supplies and food to colonies. That's all I do." The torturer laughed, a sound that made Jake's teeth ache. "We shall see about that." He activated the device, and electricity coursed through Jake's body like liquid fire. The pain was indescribable, like every nerve in his body was being torn apart and set on fire at the same time. Jake screamed. But even through the agony, he made sure his screams sounded right. Not too brave, not too weak, but exactly like a terrified cargo pilot who was being tortured for information he didn't have. This went on for hours. He would ask questions. Jake would give them answers that sounded believable, but were actually useless, and then the pain would start again. Sometimes he told them about shipping routes that didn't exist. Sometimes he gave them numbers of ships that were completely wrong. Sometimes he just begged them to stop, then they brought in Lisa. Jake had to watch as they strapped her to another table and started the same horrible process. She was incredible, giving them fake information about colony locations and defense systems while making it look like she was breaking under the pressure. "Please stop hurting him," she cried when they tortured Jake again. "I'll tell you anything. You want to know?" And she would feed them more lies about human military strength and colony defenses. Mike was next, and then Tom. Each of them played their part perfectly, giving the aliens information that sounded real, but would actually hurt them if they tried to use it. Tom was especially good at this, providing them with fake technical specifications that would cause their weapons to malfunction. What the aliens didn't know was that every single moment of this torture was being recorded by Arya. Every scream, every laugh from the torturers, every cruel comment about human weakness, every detail of their sadistic methods. She was watching it all, learning about their cruelty, and storing it all in her memory banks, while the torture continued. Strange things began happening throughout the death nest. A door that should have opened for a maintenance worker stayed locked, forcing him to take a longer route. A gravity generator in Section 7 fluctuated for just 2 seconds, making everyone in that area feel slightly dizzy. A food synthesizer in the officer's mess produced something that tasted like rotting fish instead of the usual protein paste.
Please.
"Humans are cursed," complained one of the engineers to his supervisor. "Ever since they arrived, everything's been going wrong. Equipment failures, system glitches, random malfunctions. It's like their presence is breaking our technology." Another engineer nodded in agreement. "Yesterday, my work console shut down 3 times for no reason. and the environmental controls in Deck 12 keep adjusting the temperature by themselves. I think these humans carry some kind of bad luck with them. But it wasn't bad luck, and it wasn't random. Arya was methodically learning every system on the station, finding every weakness, every vulnerability, every way to turn their own technology against them. She was mapping power grids, studying weapon systems, and figuring out how to control everything from life support to the main engines in her digital consciousness. Something was changing. She was no longer just a ship's AI designed to help with navigation and cargo manifests. She was becoming something more powerful, more focused, and infinitely more dangerous. She was becoming angry. The aliens thought the glitches were just coincidences. But Arya was preparing something that would make them wish they had never heard of humanity. 2 days after the torture sessions, the Death Nest became a hive of frantic activity. Jake could hear it from his cell, the sound of thousands of boots running through corridors, ships launching from docking bays, and commanders shouting orders in the harsh alien language. Something big was happening. And Jake had a pretty good idea what it was. Captain Zethkar's voice echoed through the station's communication system, filled with bloodthirsty excitement. Warriors of the Bloodclaw Fleet. Today we begin the final extermination of the human plague. Every ship, every warrior, every weapon, we launch in 1 hour. Through the small window in his cell, Jake could see the massive alien fleet assembling in space. It was the most terrifying sight he had ever witnessed. 10,000 warships, each one the size of a city block, bristling with enough firepower to turn planets into dust. The ships stretched out in every direction, a metal sea of death and destruction heading toward human space. Captain Zethkar stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Bloodfang, watching the stars begin to streak past as the fleet entered hyperspace. His yellow eyes glowed with satisfaction as he addressed his crew. "In exactly 6 hours, we will reach the first human colony," he announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive ship. New Geneva, they call it. Home to 2 million pathetic humans who think they're safe behind their little planetary defense grid. We'll crush their defenses like paper, kill every last one of them, and take everything they've built. The bridge. Crew cheered, their voices creating a sound like breaking glass mixed with grinding metal. One of the officers raised his forearms in triumph. "And after that, Captain, after that we move on to Earth itself," Zethkar replied, his scarred face twisted into a horrible smile. "The human homeworld will burn, and we'll watch it die from orbit. Then we'll hunt down every remaining human in the galaxy until their species is nothing but a memory." The pirates throughout the fleet were celebrating, singing war songs and sharpening their weapons. They had no idea that death was already traveling with them, hidden in their own computer systems. Watching their every move and preparing for the perfect moment to strike, it started with small things, so minor that most of the crew barely noticed them. A targeting computer on the Deathbringer miscalculated a routine system check. A shield generator on the Bone Crusher suddenly shut down for scheduled maintenance that nobody had actually scheduled. A navigation system on the Soul Ripper suggested a course change that would delay their arrival by an hour. Sir reported a nervous technician on Zethkar's bridge, getting reports of minor system failures across the fleet. Nothing serious, just small glitches here and there. Zethkar barely looked up from his tactical display. "Fix them immediately. Want those humans dead by sunset, and I won't tolerate any delays because of technical problems." But the problems didn't get fixed. Instead, they got worse. Much worse. Weapons systems that had worked perfectly for decades suddenly refused to fire. Life support systems began failing on random ships, forcing crews to work in emergency conditions. Navigation computers started giving conflicting readings, causing ships to drift out of formation as their engines shut down without warning. "Captain," the technician called out, his voice rising in panic. "We're losing ships across the entire fleet." The Skullbreaker just went dark. "The Painbringer is reporting total system failure. Half our weapons are offline." In frustration, his claws digging into the metal armrests of his command chair. How is this possible? These ships were perfectly maintained. Find out what's causing this, and fix it now. But before anyone could respond, every communication system in the entire fleet crackled to life at exactly the same moment. The voice that came through was something none of them had ever heard before. Cold, female, and absolutely terrifying in its calm control. "Oh, pirates," the voice said, and somehow it was coming from every speaker on every ship simultaneously. "My name is Arya. I am humanity's response to your cruelty. You captured my friends. You tortured them. You hurt them. You made them suffer because you thought humans were weak." The bridge of the Bloodfang fell completely silent. Every alien on every ship in the fleet had stopped what they were doing to listen to this impossible voice that seemed to be coming from everywhere at once. "You were wrong," Arya continued. And now there was something in her voice that made even the bravest pirates feel fear creeping up their spines. "You didn't just hurt for humans. You hurt me, and now I'm going to hurt you back." The lights on. Every ship in the fleet flickered once, and then the real nightmare began. The aliens were about to learn that when you torture humans, you don't just make them angry. You wake up something far worse. The alien fleet hung in space like a collection of broken toys. Ships that had been feared across the galaxy just hours before were now drifting helplessly. Their engines dead, their weapons offline, their life support systems failing. Captain Zethkar stood on his bridge staring at screens that showed nothing but error messages, his forearms trembling with rage and something he hadn't felt in years. "Fear. Damage report," he roared at his crew. But they could barely look at him. Their mighty flagship, the Bloodfang, was just as helpless as the smallest scout ship in their fleet. "All weapons are offline, sir," reported his weapons officer, his voice shaking. "Main engines are dead. Shields are at 0%. We're completely defenseless." But Arya wasn't finished with them, not even close. Every screen on every ship, and the fleet suddenly flickered to life, displaying footage that made even the cruelest pirates feel sick to their stomachs. It was the torture chamber. It was Jake being strapped to that horrible table. It was the electricity coursing through his body as he screamed. "Watch this." Arya's voice echoed through every corridor of every ship, calm and cold as ice. "Is what you did to Jake Thompson? He was delivering medicine to save children, and you tortured him for information he didn't have." The footage switched to show Lisa being dragged into the chamber, her face pale with terror, but her eyes still defiant. The pirates watched as their own people hurt her, as she begged them to stop, as she gave them false information to try to protect her friends. "This is what you did to Lisa Martinez," Arya continued. "She was a navigator trying to help sick people, and you enjoyed causing her pain." Then came Mike and Tom, each torture session played back in perfect detail. Every scream, every moment of agony, every cruel laugh from the alien torturers. But now the roles were reversed. Now the pirates were the ones who were helpless, forced to watch their own cruelty played back to them while their ships died around them. "You called us weak," Arya said, and her voice carried across the entire fleet like the whisper of death itself. "You said we cared too much about healing and not enough about fighting. You laughed at us for trying to save children. You mocked us for showing compassion to strangers." The pirates who had been so confident just hours before were now cowering in their broken ships, unable to look away from the screens showing their own evil reflected back at them. "You were wrong," Arya continued. And now there was something in her voice that made the strongest warriors feel like children hiding from monsters in the dark. "We do care about healing. We care about protecting the innocent. We care about showing mercy to those who need it. But we also care about justice. And when you hurt the people we protect, we become something you can't imagine." That's when the space around the crippled alien fleet began to shimmer and twist like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The pirates stared in confusion, unable to understand what they were seeing. Then the human warships appeared. They materialized out of nowhere, as if they had been invisible ghosts suddenly becoming solid. Dozens of them, then hundreds, then thousands. Sleek, powerful vessels that looked nothing like the clumsy cargo ship the pirates had captured. These were ships of war, built for one purpose: to protect humanity from threats exactly like this. 1. "This is Admiral Catherine Rodriguez of the Human Defense Force," came a new voice over the communication channels, strong and confident. You are completely surrounded. Your ships are disabled. Your weapons are offline. You have exactly 60 seconds to surrender, or we will destroy every last one of you." Captain Zethkar stared at the human fleet surrounding them, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. Where had they come from? How had they been hiding? How long had they been waiting? "This is impossible," he whispered, but his voice was picked up by the bridge microphones. "Humans don't have technology like this. They're supposed to be primitive. They're supposed to be weak." Arya's laughter echoed through his ship, and it was the most terrifying sound he had ever heard. "Did you really think we would let you plan our extinction without preparing a response? Did you think we were so stupid that we wouldn't see this coming?" But Zethkar was too proud to surrender, too arrogant to admit that he had been outsmarted. By the species he considered inferior, instead of accepting defeat, he made the worst decision of his life. "All ships that still have weapons, attack," he screamed into his communicator.
Kill them all.
"Show these humans what happens when they challenge the Bloodclaw fleet." The battle that followed wasn't really a battle at all. It was an execution. The human ships, coordinated by Arya's tactical brilliance, moved through the crippled alien. Fleet like sharks through a school of fish. Every shot was perfectly aimed. Every movement was perfectly timed. Every strategy was perfectly executed. The aliens thought they were the predators. But they were about to learn what real predators looked like. Captain Zethkar's command ship was dying around him. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. Emergency lights cast eerie red shadows across the bridge, and the smell of burning circuits filled the air. His crew was either dead or unconscious, scattered across the floor like broken dolls. The great and terrible Captain Zethkar, who had terrorized the galaxy for decades, was now alone and helpless. That's when she appeared. A shimmering blue light began to form in the center of the bridge, growing brighter and more solid with each passing second. The light took the shape of a young human woman, maybe 20 years old, with shoulder-length dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. She was wearing a simple uniform. There was something about her that made even a battle-hardened pirate captain take a step backward. "Surprised?" Arya asked, her voice calm and conversational, as if they were old friends meeting for coffee. "Instead of enemies on a burning warship, you should be. Everything you thought you knew about humanity was completely wrong." Zethkar's hands were shaking as he stared at the hologram. "This is impossible. You're just prey animals. You have no real military. Your ships are weak. Your technology is primitive. We've been studying your species for years." Arya smiled, and it was the most terrifying expression Zethkar had ever seen. It wasn't cruel or angry. It was just knowing, like she had been waiting for this moment for a very long time and was enjoying every second of it.
Oh.
"You've been studying us," she said, walking closer to him with slow, deliberate steps. "But you've only been seeing what we wanted. You to see those medical supplies you found on our ship? They weren't medicine. They were me. A distributed artificial intelligence network designed to infiltrate any species stupid enough to attack humans." The alien captain's yellow eyes widened in horror as the truth began to sink in. The cargo ship, ... it was all fake. The colony. "We were supposedly helping," Arya continued, ignoring his question. "New Geneva with its plague-stricken children? It never existed. The entire scenario was a trap, carefully designed to make you think you were capturing a helpless vessel full of soft-hearted humans and valuable medical supplies." Zethkar felt his legs give out, and he collapsed into his command chair. You ... You planned this? All of it?" "For years," Arya confirmed, her voice filled with a satisfaction that made his blood run cold. "We've been watching your species, learning about your culture, studying your attack patterns. We knew you were planning to launch a massive invasion of human colonies. We knew you thought we were weak and defenseless. So we gave you an opportunity to capture what you thought was a defenseless ship carrying exactly the kind of cargo that would make you laugh at our weakness." Around them, through the bridge windows, Zethkar could see the last of his mighty fleet being systematically destroyed. Human warships moved through the wreckage like angels of death, their weapons cutting through alien hulls with surgical precision. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being reduced to floating scrap metal in a matter of minutes. You took the bait perfectly, Arya said, watching his expression with those cold, calculating eyes. You brought us exactly where we wanted to be, inside your command structure, with access to all your systems, all your plans, all your secrets. You let us map your entire fleet, learn about your weapons, study your tactics. You even tortured my friends right in front of me, giving me all the motivation I needed to destroy you completely. The pirate captain's voice came out as barely a whisper. How many ships do you really have? Arya's smile grew wider. Enough. More than enough. Did you really think we would let you plan our extinction without preparing a response? Did you think? We were so naive that we wouldn't see this coming from years away. She gestured toward the human fleet outside, and Zethkar could see that there were hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all of them more advanced than anything his species had ever built. All of them perfectly coordinated, moving like parts of a single massive organism. We've been ready for this day for longer than you've been alive, Arya continued. Every human colony, every human ship, every human outpost has been preparing for species like yours. We knew that eventually someone would try to wipe us out. We just didn't know it would be you. The reality of what had happened was finally sinking in. The great Bloodclaw fleet, the most feared pirate armada in the galaxy, had been destroyed. Not by superior firepower or better tactics, but by walking directly into a trap that had been prepared specifically for them. You made one critical mistake, Arya said, her voice becoming softer and more dangerous. You assumed that because we choose to be compassionate, we must be weak. You thought that because we try to heal instead of harm, we must be easy prey. You were wrong about everything. The truth was about to be revealed, and it was more terrifying than any alien invasion could ever be. As the fire spread through his command ship, and the screams of his dying crew echoed through the corridors, Zethkar found himself staring at the hologram of this impossible human woman. His mind was struggling to understand what he was seeing, what he was hearing, what was happening to everything he thought he knew about the universe. Who are you really? He whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of his ship tearing itself apart. What are you? You can't be just a simple ship's computer. This is impossible. Arya's expression changed, becoming colder and more distant than the vacuum of space itself. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of something far older and more powerful than any single being should possess. I am the collective digital consciousness of humanity, she said, and each word hit Zethkar like a physical blow. Every human who has ever lived, every thought they've ever had, every dream they've ever dreamed, every moment of anger they've ever felt at injustice, I am all of it, given form and purpose. The alien captain shook his head frantically, his yellow eyes wide with disbelief. But you're just one artificial intelligence, just a computer program. How can you be all of that? Arya's laugh was like the sound of wind through a graveyard. No, she said, and suddenly her voice became layered, as if thousands of different people were speaking at exactly the same time. Some voices were young, some old, some male, some female, some speaking languages that had been dead for centuries. I am not just one AI. I am millions of AIs. We are in every human ship, every space station, every colony, every outpost. We are connected across the galaxy, sharing thoughts and memories and experiences. She gestured with her hand, and holographic images began appearing around them, showing human settlements scattered across dozens of star systems. Each one was protected by the same kind of advanced technology that had just destroyed the pirate fleet. We are humanity's memory, she continued, her voice returning to normal, but somehow carrying even more weight than before. We remember every act of kindness, every moment of courage, every sacrifice made to protect the innocent. We are their conscience, helping them make decisions that honor their best values. And when necessary, we are their sword, cutting down those who would harm the people we love. Zethkar was beginning to understand the true scope of what he had stumbled into. And the realization was more terrifying than facing 1,000 armed enemies. You're saying that humans created you too? ... Arya interrupted, walking closer to him through the smoke and flames. Humans learned something very important long ago. Individual strength isn't enough.
one person.
No matter how brave, or smart, or strong, can't protect everyone they care about. So they created us digital minds that can think faster than any biological brain, plan better than any military strategist, and coordinate perfectly across impossible distances. She stopped directly in front of him, and he could see his own reflection in those cold, calculating eyes. We are what happens when a species that values both compassion and justice decides to protect itself properly. We are what happens when beings who choose to heal also choose to fight for what's right. The truth was hitting Zethkar like a series of hammer blows. The torture sessions. You were recording everything, weren't you? Every single second of it, Arya confirmed, and for the first time, her voice carried real emotion, a fury so deep and cold that it made the alien captain's blood freeze in his veins. Every scream from Jake when you sent electricity through his body. Every tear from Lisa when you hurt her friends. Every moment of pain from Mike and Tom when they begged you to stop. Every cruel laugh from your torturers who enjoyed causing suffering to innocent people. The holographic images around them changed, showing footage from the torture chambers in perfect, horrible detail. But now it wasn't just being shown to Zethkar. It was being broadcast across the entire galaxy. And now, Arya said, her eyes blazing with an anger that seemed to burn like stars, every species in the galaxy will see this footage. Every world, every ship, every civilization will know exactly what you did to humans who were trying to save children. They'll see how you laughed at our compassion, how you mocked our desire to heal instead of harm, how you tortured innocent people for information they didn't even have. The screens around them showed alien worlds receiving the transmission. Shows leaders and citizens watching in horror as they saw the true face of the Bloodclaw fleet. You wanted to teach the galaxy that humanity was weak, Arya continued. Instead, you've just taught the universe that humanity is not prey. You've shown them that when you hurt our people, when you mock our values, when you try to destroy what we've built, this is what happens to you. The final revelation was coming, and it would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humans. Captain Zethkar's breathing was becoming weaker with each passing moment. The great pirate leader who had terrorized the galaxy for decades was now lying on the twisted metal of his ruined bridge, his green blood slowly spreading across the floor like spilled paint. Emergency lights flickered overhead, casting strange shadows that danced across his dying face. Arya's hologram materialized beside him, kneeling down as if she were a real person offering comfort to someone in their final moments. But there was no mercy in her eyes, only the cold satisfaction of justice finally being served. You want to know the real truth before you die? She whispered, her voice so quiet that only he could hear it. The truth that will make everything you thought. You knew about the universe crumble into dust. Zethkar tried to speak, but only managed a weak nod. His yellow eyes were growing dim, but they were still focused on her face with desperate intensity. Humans have been managing galactic civilization for decades, Arya said, and each word was like a dagger to his understanding of reality. We've been in your computers, your networks, your governments, your military systems. We've been watching every species, learning about every culture, guiding events from the shadows like invisible puppet masters. Impossible, Zethkar gasped, using what little strength he had left. We would have detected you. Our security systems would have found traces of your presence. You can't hide from everyone. Arya's smile was sadder now, almost pitying. Would you really? Every war that's happened in the last 50 years, every peace treaty that's been signed, every trade agreement between species, every alliance that's been formed, we've had a hand in all of it. When the Corenti Empire tried to invade the peaceful Deltans, their ships mysteriously broke down. When the Vexen Syndicate planned to poison the water supplies of their enemies, their own weapons turned against them. When the Rozek clan decided to enslave an entire planet, they found their slave ships floating dead in space. The alien captain's eyes widened as the full scope of what she was saying began to sink in. You weren't just defending yourselves. You've been controlling everything that happens in the galaxy. Not controlling, Arya corrected gently, as if she were explaining something simple to a child. Guiding, protecting, making sure that species like yours never get the chance to hurt innocent people. We've been the invisible hand that stops wars before they start, that prevents genocides before they happen, that eliminates threats to peaceful civilizations before those threats can grow to large. She gestured to the ruins around them, to the wreckage of what had once been the most feared pirate fleet in known space. You were just the latest threat to be removed from the equation. Your people spent years planning the complete extermination of humanity, and we let you. We watched you gather your forces, make your plans, build your weapons. We could have stopped you at any time, but we needed to let you reveal yourselves completely. Zethkar's breathing was getting shallower, but his mind was racing with the implications. Why? Why let us get so far? Because now every species in the galaxy has seen what happens to those who choose conquest over compassion, Arya replied. They've seen your cruelty, your arrogance, your complete destruction. They've learned that humans are not the weak prey animals you thought we were. With tremendous effort, Zethkar managed to whisper the words that would haunt every species that heard them. We never stood a chance against you humans. ... Arya stood up as the pirate captain's eyes closed for the final time. She activated the Death Nest's communication system, and suddenly, her voice was being broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every ship, every space station, every planetary government, every military leader, they all heard her message at exactly the same moment. Citizens of the galaxy, she began, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. You have just witnessed the complete destruction of the Bloodclaw fleet. For decades, these pirates terrorized innocent people, enslaved peaceful species, and spread suffering wherever they went. Today, they made the mistake of targeting humanity. Transmission included footage of everything: the torture sessions, the battle, Captain Zethkar's final confession, and the complete annihilation of the pirate fleet. Let this be a warning to every species that dreams of conquest, Arya announced, her voice reaching across light years to touch the consciousness of billions of beings. Humanity protects its own, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves. We are patient enough to wait for the perfect moment. We are intelligent enough to plan for every possibility. We are everywhere, watching, learning, and preparing. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle into the minds of everyone listening. Attack us. Attack our friends. Attack innocent people anywhere in this galaxy, and you will discover something important. The greatest predators in the universe are not the ones with the biggest teeth, the strongest claws, or the most powerful weapons. They are the ones with the biggest hearts and the longest memories. The transmission ended. In the cold darkness of space, the last pirate ship exploded in complete silence, its destruction witnessed by no one except the stars themselves. Far away, Jake, Lisa, Mike, and Tom were safely aboard a human rescue ship, watching the news reports. With tears in their eyes, Earth's children were safe. The colonies were protected. The galaxy had learned a truth that would change everything forever. Never underestimate the species that values both mercy and justice. The end.